Hello everyone and welcome to a special bonus episode of This Nintendo Life. I am NBZ and I am here. I needed to be joined by a fellow weeb because this is an important week for weebs. You know, the anime nonsense is coming over the hill and we need to be ready for it. So we're here on a special episode to talk about Xenoblade Chronicles, and I'm joined by Devon. Devon, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Always happy to join.
Absolutely. And you very recently were like, hey, I'm playing this Xenoblade Chronicles thing. I'm like, okay, this is one of my favorite games of all time, so very interested to see what you think about it. And you're like, well, I think I'm probably going to finish it before 3. I'm like, we'll see about that. It's a long game, very ambitious. And then you proceeded to just play through the whole thing in like the last few weeks or so. So, yeah, how's that experience of like condensing it into a short period of time?
I told you this right before we recorded. So I work from home at the moment, so it is very easy to just pull out my Switch and play for a little while. And I definitely played that game more than I should have when I was technically on the clock. But that game, honestly, maybe more than any other RPG I've ever played. Also with probably Persona. It's just like when you get into a groove, it's just impossible to put down. It has that kind of Breath of the Wild feeling where it's like, oh, you know, this is a great stopping point when I finish this quest, but then like 3 more open up and you find a new secret area, or you do a story cutscene or something like that, and you're like, I can't. I can't stop playing.
Yeah, for sure. Like, my history with the series is, weirdly, it took me a very long time to play through the first game, even though it is my favorite in the series and like one of my favorite games of all time. I think it was when Chugga Conroy started his LP. I was about halfway through. And I was watching his LP, and my goal for myself was, I need to finish this before he finishes his LP. So I was like a race against the clock to basically finish it before he went through and did it himself. But yeah, I played it over the period of like 3 or so years. I got it straight after Skyward Sword. I finished Skyward Sword in 2011, and I needed a new game on Wii, so I went to the shop, and over Christmas, Xenoblade on Wii, which now you will find for absurd prices because it's an extremely rare game, hard to get. It was marked down 50% off to 20 quid in game, and I was like, well, okay, I guess I'm getting this, because I heard about people talk about it on podcasts, and people were like, this is great, this is like a niche RPG that is like super well regarded and highly revered, and I was like, all right, I will check it out. And then I proceeded to play it with a Wii Remote and Nunchuck, and let me tell you, it's a bad way to play Xenoblade Chronicles. Do not play it with a Wii Remote and Nunchuck, because I got to that first spider boss, right, like in the mines, and I couldn't beat it, because the controls weren't working for me. So it was like a year later that I got a Pro controller for the Wii, which you would plug into the Wii Remote and you'd use that. So I got that, and then I played a bunch more, got to like the middle part of Aerith C, then took another break, and then came back to it like the year later when Chugga Conroy was playing through it. And I think because I had got stuck on one of the bosses, I think the Melia trial was where I got stuck against Tyrea and the freaking, what did you call it, the Telethia in there. That was a tough boss fight.
Everyone said that fight was really tough. You're talking at the end of Bionis Interior, that one?
No. I'm talking about the one inside of the trial, the middle of the game, before you go to Prison Island. Basically.
Oh, like the first Telethia you fight. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Inside that area. But anyway, yeah. So my history with that game is long, and you know, I loved it. You know, I think the kind of narrative beats of it and the music and everything stands out so strongly to me. It's one of my favorite games of all time at this point. But subsequently, like when I played the other games, all of them, kind of speaking to what you were saying, I completed them all within a very short period of time. Like X, I beat within, I want to say 3 weeks or so, put like 90 hours into that game. When Xenoblade 2 came out, I finished it in 10 days. I basically played like 70, 80 hours in 10 days, which was absurd. And then when Torna came out, so I was home on holiday when Torna came out, and I beat that in like 3 days as well. So like my history with Xenoblade past the first game, which ironically is my favorite, is always like beat it in a very short period of time. I also replayed Definitive Edition when it came out, and also played Future Connected, and did that in the space of about a week as well. So yeah, I have taken a week off for Xenoblade 3 basically.
Wow.
And I'm anticipating to hopefully finish it within that week, if not a little bit soon after that. But yeah, basically I just want to have this discussion about Xenoblade 1 and your experience with it, and maybe look towards the future a little bit, because we're in the lead up to 3. 3 is coming out when this posts, probably in about a few days time. And I think probably partially the reason you jumped into the original game is that 3 looks quite enticing, right?
Yeah, I mean, 3 looks amazing. I've always been really interested in the original game. I picked I wanted to get it on Wii when Chugga Conroy started doing his Let's Play, but
Yes.
it was impossible to find that. I think it's actually easier to find now because there's been all these re-releases, and it also
Right.
went up on the Wii version went up on the Wii U eShop at one point.
Mm-hmm.
So I
Yep.
remember, along with that and Metroid Prime Trilogy on Wii, the price just went down because it was way easier to get.
Yeah, much more accessible at this point
Yeah,
in time, which is nice.
but I played, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 hours on 3DS, and I don't know, just for whatever reason I stopped. It didn't quite click with me.
It's hard to like get across the grandeur of the world on the 3DS
Yeah.
version because it's so shrunk down. Like part of the experience that I love about these games is how big and boundless the worlds are, and like
Mhm.
the exploration side of it, and just the grand like split. Like just looking at this original game on Wii, it's almost mind-boggling that they got it to work. Right, like
Yeah.
the size and scale of stuff is just astonishing. And so yeah, it's always been a very technically impressive series. Obviously Monolith have gone on to help Nintendo's internal teams on stuff like Breath of the Wild, and the sequel to that game also, like their open world tech and everything
Are
is.
they confirmed for the sequel as well? I didn't know that.
Yeah, I mean, they have like a bunch of team members who basically work with the Zelda team now on open world tech stuff, I
That's
guess.
interesting.
So yeah, they do a lot of work on lots of Nintendo games. Actually, I think there was some other recent projects they were working on also, but they're a big tech help for lots of what Nintendo's been doing in the Switch era.
Mhm.
And obviously they are very quick at making their own games because, like, I
Apparently.
mean, the turnaround is pretty rapid when it comes to Monolith versus a lot of other Nintendo studios. But yeah, I do think that this first game, thankfully, is as you were saying, a lot easier to get a hold of now with the definitive edition on Switch. But
Yeah.
also it's just ironic because originally this series, and I mean this was part of a thing called Operation Rainfall back in the day.
I was going to mention that. Yeah, I
Yeah,
remember that very distinctly.
yeah, which was basically Japan had these 3 Wii RPGs. There was Pandora's Tower, The Lost Story, and Xenoblade Chronicles. And Nintendo of America refused to localize them or bring them out. Meanwhile, Nintendo of Europe, the reason why the Xenoblade games have a British voice cast is all because Nintendo of Europe were the ones to localize the game, right? That's the reason we have it like that. And I'm actually very happy about that because I think it gives the series such a unique identity.
Yeah.
Like the British Isles voices like lend such a different feel to it, and I think it just works so nicely. So it is kind of fortunate that Nintendo of Europe kind of took on the mantle of publishing all 3 of these games, and then eventually Nintendo of America were like, they gave in and they're like, all right, fine, we'll put them out and we'll make it GameStop exclusive, and like very begrudgingly. And now ironically Xenoblade is like a rising star in terms of their franchises alongside Fire Emblem. Like
Hmm.
it feels like these games have really started to find an audience on the Switch, and people just getting much more interested and invested in them, which is very cool to see.
Yeah.
But you wouldn't have thought it originally, right? Which is interesting. But anyway, we're here now,
We're
and
here.
it is a popular franchise, and we're looking forward to 3 coming soon. Maybe let's start off with some kind of like spoiler-free thoughts on the original game. How did you feel about it overall as a game, and kind of things that you liked, things that you didn't like? Yeah, just give me your overall thoughts, I guess.
Hmm. Um, I mean, I love the game overall. I think
Hmm.
I'll get this out of the way now. I haven't done like a top 10 favorite games list in forever, so I don't know exactly where it would rank,
Okay,
but on the top of
I'd
my
love to
head,
see that. You know.
yeah, on the top of my head, I think this might be in like top 10 territory for me now.
Damn. Okay.
I really, really enjoyed this game. I don't know. With the positives, I think it's tough to say things that people haven't almost talked about ad nauseum. The world
Sure.
is
Yeah.
incredible. It's just beautiful, and finding the secret areas is so rewarding, especially since you get like actual bonuses. You get uh, XP and AP and all that stuff. I think the story, for what it is pretty phenomenal. At
Hmm.
least for me, with someone who's like very much a story person and just familiar with like writing and narrative tropes. A lot of the things I was able to predict, but it didn't really impact the experience for me. There's something about this game
Yeah.
that's just, especially story wise, it's just like firing on all cylinders. Even if there are like kind of silly anime moments for
Oh
whatever
yeah.
reason, you're just like all in. You're like
They
you
work
scream
though, right?
Shulk.
Like
Yeah.
yeah, it leans into anime, but in like the good ways. Where I
Yeah.
think like two leans into anime in the bad ways, and I think like I hope they find that balance again in 3 because yeah, I think there's definitely like I think melodrama is a big reason I like Japanese stuff so
Oh,
much. Right?
melodrama is great. Yeah.
Yakuza is filled with melodrama, and I think it's
Mhm.
part of why I love that series so much. Like, as much as I really appreciate like Western storytelling and like a lot of these big like you know, AAA games, right? Stuff like Spider-Man and God of War and Last of Us, like they're all very self-serious and like it's cool. Like I like stuff like Breaking Bad as well. You know, I like these kind of prestige TV things.
Sure, yeah.
But there's something about like the kind of almost camp like melodrama, like the not taking itself too seriously while also like really leaning into some like emotional moments. I think it like those games wear their heart on their sleeve so much more clearly, and I think that's why I gravitate towards that type of storytelling quite a lot. Which you know, it pops up in anime a lot as well. So yeah, I do appreciate that.
Yeah,
I think,
but I mean,
yeah.
the serious moments still really work without going into spoilers. I mean, there's something that happens, I don't know, about 4 hours at the end of the first game, which, or
Yeah.
at you know, in the very beginning, like first chapter or
Yes.
two, which anyone who has played the game knows exactly what I'm talking about, which is like
Mm-hmm.
great driving narrative force, and there's
Mm-hmm.
plenty of stuff later on that's in particular to do with the character of Melia that's just like pretty dark and pretty
Yeah,
tragic.
yeah. It definitely goes places.
Hmm.
How did you feel about like the combat system? Because I know this is probably one of the elements that people not don't have issue with, but it's like it's almost MMO light in
Yeah,
the way that you
yeah.
have like these access to these abilities and they're on cooldown and stuff like that. I think Xenoblade 2 does a better job like with that style of combat. But what did you think about the way they handled it here?
I can tell you first off, like anyone playing this game, I mean, you know, this is probably the way you didn't need me to tell you this, but play the definitive edition. There's lots of nice little improvements.
Yeah,
In particular, especially with Shulk, there's a ton of arts, which are your sort of cooldown abilities from an MMO that are positional based on the enemy. And from what I remember, in the original game, like there's no notification if you're on the side
nope.
or the back of an enemy.
They do not tell you at all. You have to judge it yourself,
Hmm.
basically.
They fix it in this
Um,
game, which is great. Um, the only thing is, and I know you can change this in the Switch control menus. I never did. I found it was a little bit awkward to use the D-pad to switch between the arts sometimes. I kind of wished it was on the triggers so you could move and do it. In particular, at least with my Pro controller, I have always had the issue where if I press right or usually right or sometimes left on my D-pad, it registers an up input a lot. So I would miss input arts sometimes, which was kind of frustrating. But I really like the combat in this game. I know this is particular, you know, something that people mention for Xenoblade 2, but um, I think it's still true to a degree in this game. There are a ton of systems in this game, combat related and non-combat related, that then like fuel into combat, and it can be kind of overwhelming to understand them all. There are bits
yeah.
of the system that I don't even quite understand to this day. Like when you're doing a chain attack, when sometimes you'll continue on to like a second round of it after your third party members, and then sometimes it just doesn't happen. I don't know if that's to do with tension or affinity or something like that, but that
Yeah.
always confused
Ch-
me.
Chain attacks are a little weird. I think it's like the color of the art is what you need to use. So like if you use a red art, you need to
So that'll
use
that'll combo.
yes, yeah,
It's like a multiplier on the damage of the art, but I don't know if it has anything
right.
specifically to do with like if the chain attack continues, because there were plenty of times where I do 3 red arts and it end, and then I do, you know, 3 red arts and it would continue. So I have no clue.
It might be like the kind of motivation system, you know, when like your character's like portrait looks
Yeah,
sad or
tension.
like
Yeah.
looks yeah. So it could be to do with that, maybe. I'm not sure. It's one of those games where my first playthrough, I didn't really understand the systems that much. I
Yeah.
didn't really know what arts to level up properly. I wasn't like efficiently equipped in terms of characters. I basically used Shulk, Shala, and Ryan until the end of the game and didn't really change up at
Oh,
all.
really?
So I didn't really experiment in any way, just because I feel like when I first played this, I wouldn't say I was like new to RPGs, but like Xenoblade was one of the first big RPGs that I really got my teeth into. to. And the last like decade or so, I've played a lot, like really enveloped myself in the genre in a much more kind of wide way, and so I have a better kind of understanding of like digging into those types of systems. But I think it's quite overwhelming as like a starter RPG in a way. And so my second time through, I understood everything so much better. I think partially from having watched Chug Conroy play through and him explaining everything very clearly, but also like just looking up like, okay, so how does Melia work? Like, what is her unique thing? Because a lot of the characters do play quite differently, right? Like Shulk is very positional based. You know, Ryan is basically a tank. Dunban is like a dodge tank, basically. Like they all have specific roles that they play.
Melia's doing her own thing, basically. She doesn't really play like anyone else.
No, she has like a whole different set of mechanics, and the game, I will say to its fault, does not do a great job of explaining that system. Like they have tutorials, but I don't think they really. You are better served going. Yeah, you're better served going to YouTube in order to find out how to really play some of those characters.
Yeah, I would recommend Chugga Conroy for sure. Who I'm sure we'll mention more throughout this video because he's kind of like the Xenoblade master at this point.
Yeah, exactly.
But I'd also recommend, I don't know if you've checked his channel out before. Enel, it's E-N-E-L.
Yes, I've been watching a bunch of his breakdown analysis stuff, Xenoblade 3 things, which is really interesting, and I think he speedruns as well.
His character guides. Yeah, he actually, so SGDQ just happened, and he and Chugga Conroy both did a commentary for a run on Torna, which was cool. I watched a little bit of that.
Nice. Yeah, I want to go back and watch that. I actually watched the Elden Ring runs, and also I think there was a Metroid Dread run that I'm still in the middle of watching. So yeah, some good stuff there for sure.
Yeah, GDQ's great. Everyone should watch GDQ. It's awesome cause, awesome event. But yeah, no, he has character guides for Shulk, Ryan, Melia, all that stuff, as well as some other things like how to raise affinity. That's more endgame sort of oriented. Yeah. But there's a couple of guides in there that I found super useful because so Shulk, you really only have, I mean, Monado arts is one thing, but your main arts you don't unlock any, that you can't fit on your arts bar. If you look at like Ryan has about 10 billion arts. So when you're first trying to play the game, it's a little bit difficult to figure out like what's useful and what's not, because there is definitely a big discrepancy between like the good and the bad arts. So
it's also about setting yourself up with the right arts that will help you the most in terms of causing stuff like the topple
break topple
break topple days combo, because I think one of the issues people have with this game is the AI control party members and whether they will actually proc the abilities you want them to at the times you want them to, because you don't have control. Like you can give them commands of like where to attack or like focus on one enemy, but there's no like direct command, which gets me excited about 3 because 3 has very direct switching to each character, so you can set things up a lot more easily in terms of those like chains of putting stuff together. So
I'll recommend to people, this is just my experience, and I think most people would agree, for good party members controlled by the AI. Ryan is really good controlled by the AI. Charla, she's a healer. Honestly, it's probably way better if you're actually going to use Charla to have her
she's kind of
AI
boring
controlled.
to play as generally. If you're going to play as Charla, it's a little dull. But yeah.
Ricky works really well controlled by the AI, and Dunban surprisingly
never use Melia controlled by the AI. They don't know what to do with her, and it's a nightmare. Yeah. She's so hard to use. Even the game's own AI has no idea how to use her. Basically,
actually, once you understand Melia, I found she's kind of one of the easier characters to use. Once you sort of understand how her kit works, you get into a rhythm where you're not worried about positional or anything like that. You're kind of just like using your abilities on cooldown to an extent.
She actually kind of breaks the game. Like once you get good at Melia, she becomes almost overpowered in a fun way. And I committed to learning her my second time through playing Definitive Edition.
She's really fun. I like her.
Yeah, but purely because Future Connected is a part of that, right? And she is a playable character there. So I was like, I need to learn her. Basically what I did was I played up to like the middle of the game, then I went and played Future Connected, and then I finished the main game. So basically got to the point where I'd learned Melia a little bit, and then I jumped over to Future Connected to play that like halfway through, so that I had a good idea of what to do with her initially. So
if you want tips for Melia build, trying to find the hidden arts manual in the High
Yes.
Entia tomb, which is awesome. You
Oh,
get
that's the most helpful one by far.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you get a great piece of gear, and you get the advanced manual for Summon Bolt, and also stack Ether Up gems and Electric Plus gems
Yes.
on her, and you're going to be
Yeah.
doing great work.
Just basically with everyone, just stack agility gems. That's the general go-to thing with
Yeah,
the first
Agility's
game.
busted. It's really
Yeah,
good.
it's ridiculously good. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. Some of these other systems in the game are really interesting, and I feel like they've been smoothed out a little bit over the series. But stuff like
Yeah.
the affinity chart and like having heart to hearts and things like that.
I really like the idea of affinity,
Yeah.
but I mean, this game does the thing that most modern RPGs do now, which is great, where all your party members get leveled up, so you're not stuck to a team of three. But for affinity grinding, you need to have them within the party, which can, I don't know, it can be a little bit frustrating.
Yeah.
You can have some unoptimized party setup because we talked about this just on Discord and stuff, but
Hmm.
the way this game does its party members, I think, is really cool. You have sort of two versions of a DPS character, two versions of a tank character, and two versions of a healer. But they all like the different versions in each roles kind of do very different things from one another. So I don't know. It's
Yeah.
just cool to kind of mix and match the party setup. And then the seventh character, which I think most people know there is a seventh character, without
Hmm.
spoilers, is also cool because you can play them in sort of whatever way you want. You can go strength
Yeah.
build, you can go agility tank build, you can go like a magic ether build. It's cool.
Yeah, it's pretty flexible,
Hmm.
which is nice. And yeah, I definitely like had much more fun the second time through with the combat, just understanding it a lot better and mixing things up and having different party combinations. And yeah, I think it honestly, I had this high in my estimation, but I think playing through a second time just only raised it
Yeah.
because I think the stuff for me that makes this game so special is the music. First of all, is fucking
So
incredible.
good.
It's my
Yeah.
favorite. It's my favorite soundtrack of all time. Like it's absolutely amazing. But like the characters and the plot beats for me are just like so like stuck in my brain as like
Yeah.
these things that I was so thrilled by every time. Like I think it is for a game that is probably 70 hours, it is remarkably well paced in terms of its reveals and its moments and like the things that it teases out.
No,
Yeah,
I
I think it
agree
just does an
completely.
amazing job with that stuff. So yeah, maybe we'll switch over to that stuff to spoilers. So if you have not played Xenoblade Chronicles, then there'll be a timestamp in the description, and maybe skip ahead to when we talk about stuff for Xenoblade 2 and 3 after this. But yeah,
Yeah.
let's get into it, man. Yeah, how did you feel about like some of these major moments? Let's maybe start at the beginning. I think the Fiora death is the quote unquote death is the first thing that really got me in this game. It's
Yeah.
kind of like it is a really good driving motivation of like, oh okay, yeah, they really went for it at the start here,
Hmm.
and it really kind of makes you want to go out on this adventure.
No, it's super
I love
cool.
it a lot.
It's super cool. I will say I love how the game has the system where, unlike most RPGs, including two from what I've seen, which is a disappointment, your armor affects actually like what your character is wearing. So you can get in
Yes,
the
it
first
does.
village this like bikini armor, which just happened to have like the best stats for Fiora. So I had
Of
her
course, yeah. Uh-huh.
wearing. I'm serious. Like, so I was wearing the bikini armor. I didn't realize it would show
Oh
up in the
god.
cutscene, but it shows up in the cutscene where she's killed by Metalface. I was
Oh
like,
my god,
I
that's
can't take this
brutal, man.
seriously. Yeah,
No, that's ridiculous. I didn't realize that. I don't think I've ever found that.
yeah.
That's really funny. I mean, Colony 9 is like a fucking huge area. Like that opening space, you can.
I mean, it's the biggest town. That, or I guess
Yeah,
maybe Frontier Village, but that's a very
right.
vertical area,
It's
obviously.
not just the town, it's like the whole like water area around it. Like this whole circumference is just absolutely fucking enormous. Like I remember when I first played it spending like 10 hours just in that first area
Yeah.
because I have a little obsession with like just filling in maps, and so I did
Oh,
that
I
a
tried
lot in
that.
this
I
game.
tried that to begin it at the beginning. Like, I'm gonna get in every
Yeah.
map square, but once
Uh-huh.
I hit
Yeah.
Gower Plain, I'm like, I'm not doing that.
This is not happening.
Yeah.
Well, the thing that I didn't realize when I first played through is that you basically, if you find every fast travel location, every
Will
landmark,
automatically
it
do
will
it.
lift the fog for you. So it will
Okay.
just do everything. So yeah, my second playthrough, I just basically went and found all the landmarks to.
I was constantly, I don't know about you, like, so there are two sort of ways you can view the map in Definitive Edition. You can hit Y
Hmm.
to travel between, like, fast travel markers, or you can hit
Yeah.
L3, clicking the stick to sort of get like a zoomed in view of the map, which isn't affected by the fog.
Yeah, it's like a kind of does it like overlay it so you can see it while you're running at the same time?
It overlays it on the screen, and it doesn't affect
Yeah.
the fog, so you can actually see like the like geography or whatever you want to say of the terrain. You can
Right.
see
Yeah.
what it looks like, and you can see like more zoomed in where quest icons might be and stuff. So I was constantly like toggling that map on and off. It was
Yeah.
super super helpful.
Did you think that Fiora was dead when that happens at the beginning, or
No,
had you been? I guess
no.
I think you said to me you'd been spoiled on that, right?
Yeah, because I played Smash 4 and I saw Mecha
Right.
Fiora
Yeah.
trophy, and I was like, well, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I do remember seeing that in Smash 4, and I was like, Bally, stop getting trophies, because I think he was playing through it around the time that came out, and I was like, don't look at any trophies, it will spoil Xenoblade, it will basically give away this key plot point, which, yeah, you can kind of see it coming, I guess. Like,
I mean, I will say, at the moment when I first learned that, I was upset, but they kind of suggest it very early on that she's still alive.
Yes.
Because you see, like, some girl get put into this, like, huge white mechon, and she, you see, like, blonde hair, and she looks like
Right.
Fiora. So, I mean, it's
Yeah.
the game is clearly trying to be like, is this Fiora? It's not trying to hide anything.
There are a lot of those cutaways to, what's her name? Eggle's sister? Vinaya?
Yeah, Vinaya.
Lots of cutaways to like them like in a dark room with a mech on and like ominous voices and like metal face saying stuff, those types of things. So yeah, I think a lot of that is interesting second time through because you know exactly who all these people are, and so all of it is like very clearly foreshadowed. Especially like one of my favorite first cutscenes is like when Shulk touches the Monado and it just basically flashes a bunch of events that are going to happen. Like you see Egil in the Aldebaoth like at the end of the fucking game, right in that first kind of premonition scene. So like if you go back now and watch that cutscene again, you will notice of like, okay, there's the Emperor dying in Prison Island, like there's all this stuff happening being set up.
That one they show a million times. That one
they show that one, loads.
Yeah,
that's like one of the central parts of it. And yeah, I like it. I guess we haven't talked about that as a mechanic, but like they build that into the game. I like the fact they build the future seeing story thing into the game as a mechanic as part of the battle system. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I really like the vision mechanic. The only frustrating thing is every single time there's a vision, you have to watch the animation play out and the character fall to the ground and blah blah blah. That like it doesn't really particularly matter what the attack is. It just matters that there's an attack.
Yes.
So they could just put the little countdown timer at the top, and that would be that. But it's not that big of a deal.
And depending on what type of attack it is, you're basically just like responding with like, oh well, it's this type, and that I have to use speed art or I have to use the
shield
defense art,
or
basically. Yeah. So yeah, I think it's cool. I think I like they kind of build it in, but yeah, it builds. It, as a narrative device, I think it's cool to just foreshadow a bunch of stuff early on to the player. And really, I think like as a big JRPG, it just teases like the scope of the game in a fun way, right?
Absolutely.
Like it just shows a bunch of locations and characters and stuff that you have no idea or context for at the time, because you just start off in this Homs village and you're not aware of like other races that exist and that stuff. And like I really like the progression. No, yeah, but I love the progression through that you meet all these different people of the Bionis and the Mechonis, and yeah, it turns out really cool. So
me too. I love the Lord of the Rings moment. It's very Lord of the Rings, this game, to me, that you have all three races, your Homs, Hyantia, and Napon.
Yes.
Your humans, elves, and dwarves, like fighting the Mechon / Telethi at the end. It's fun.
Yeah, no, it very much maps onto that idea.
Those fucking Napon.
The Nopon is so dumb. Like it's so funny that like Xenoblade decided to have their Chocobo or Moogle and theirs are just like little fucking potato people. Like this is the mascot.
Like with wings and hands. It's kind of when you actually look at their design, it's a little bit weird because like they have arms on the side of their like bodies, but they use their like weird ear wing things to actually like, pick up stuff. It's right. It's strange.
I don't know, man. I mean, they're a mainstay now, right? Like they are in every game. Like
unfortunately,
including X, right? Like don't forget, X is like not. No one has No one has managed to connect X, but to the series. But I feel like they're gonna do something.
What's the one's name in X? Is it Tatsu? I've heard Tatsu is
It's
like
Tatsu.
abysmal.
Yeah, Tatsu kind of sucks. I think there's lots of Nopon that suck. Tora in Xenoblade 2 is like a misogynist piece of shit. Like a lot of them are. They have problems basically. Like I think Ricky.
Except Ricky, man. You know what? Ricky, by the end of the game, I was down for Ricky. I was cool with Ricky by the end. But
yeah, Ricky's cool.
Else.
He has like a couple of fun moments, like and he has like one of those somber moments, like on the beach when he's like chatting with Dunban. Like I think
talking to Dunban, yeah,
there's some good stuff there with him. I do like Ricky,
and his heart to heart. Some of them are genuinely like pretty touching.
Yes. If you can get them, that is, by doing the affinity, which, like, I think that's probably one of the drawbacks of the affinity system is, like, the heart-to-hearts being tied to it and, like, them being so hard to do.
A little too hard to grind.
Little too annoying, yeah. So I definitely recommend, like, just looking those up. But I do hope that they're going to do more voiced ones. It seems like 3 is going to have, like, more voiced heart-to-heart stuff going on, because...
yeah, 2 they're not voiced, right?
No, but Future Connected has voice heart-to-hearts.
I just started playing that before we started. I played about an hour of it. Those heart-to-hearts are like long as hell. They're like 5-minute cutscenes, which I was not expecting.
They're really long. And I think maybe because it's the reduced cast in that game, there's only like 4 characters who can interact with each other. Maybe 5 if you include one of the other characters in there. Ricky's kids. They're weird, of course, classically. But I hope that 3, because in 3 it seems like they're like sitting at campsites together and like chatting a bunch. So I hope they do a lot more of that. But yeah, I mean, like, I guess what other kind of beats stood out to you as you went through the game? I think, like, Metal Face is, like, the first kind of big antagonist you go up against, like, after Zord. Zord is, like, kind of an introduction character, which I was telling you about. The fun thing about Zord is if you do a side quest in Colony 9, I think it's a side quest that requires you to have, like, level 4 stars or something with the colony, so it's one that's really hard to get. But he is actually one of the blacksmiths from the colony who has become, you know, a face mechon, basically, which is a really cool idea because he has a giant hammer because he was a blacksmith, right? And yeah, that happens quite a lot in the game with you know, the face mechon obviously connecting back to previous characters like Gatto and with obviously with Metal Face. And I do love that the trio at the beginning with Dunban and Dixon and Mumkar, and how relevant all 3 of them are to like the driving plot of the game. Like
particular Dixon.
yeah, for sure. That's a big turn. But yeah, I do think like the first kind of 30 hours, let's say, before you get up to Aerith Sea is a lot of kind of setup of the world and like introducing you to places and stuff. There's probably not as much kind of plot happening there, but I think it's when you get to like
we were talking, there's a very distinct like halfway through point in this game where after Prison Island, it's like, okay, you're on part 2, and I mean, I'm sure they did this intentionally, but it kind of makes sense because obviously the final bit of the game takes place on Prison Island as well, so it's kind of returning to that area.
Yeah, totally. When it's all just like I think it falls into the top of the Bionis, doesn't it, at some point?
They, like, raise it up over the Bionis' head, I think.
Yeah.
Then you go to space, because it's an RPG.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll get to that. Yeah, I think that, like, that's kind of the point at which everything kicks off in terms of, like, driving plot stuff, right? Like, Fiora is revealed, and you fight Mumkar, and you obviously, he kind of falls down, which, by the way, you can find Mumkar's crushed, dead mechon body on the fallen arm if you explore. Like, there is a section
dead.
By the beach. Well, his mechon is just basically crushed on the fallen arm.
Wait, how? Because it doesn't. In one of the final cutscenes, you see like Otharon and Juju, because you know an old man and a child apparently are like the main defense force of the Homs.
Yes,
They're fighting Telethi at the end.
Yes.
And then you see what I thought was like Metal Face, Mumkar's mech.
No, I think it was just a bunch of other faced mechon, like modeled.
They're just normal face mechon? Okay. Yeah,
the face mechon just modeled after him, I think, is probably the case. But yeah, I mean, when he falls off the Mechonis sword down underneath, you basically, when you fall to the fallen arm, he's dead. Yeah, he was crushed. Like you can find his corpse on the fallen arm, which is a really cool touch. Like you can go over there and see it.
That's crazy. I never noticed that. Fallen Arms is one of my favorite areas. I really like that area.
Yeah, that is for me like top maybe 3 locations in a video game is the Fallen Arm.
Hmm.
Just this very idea, right, that these two titans are battling for millennia, and there's this final fight that happens, and one gets its arm cut off, and the other one like embeds its sword in the other,
Yeah.
and then they're just frozen in time for like hundreds of thousands of years, and life just like forms on them, and part of this is like an island, which is that hand that was cut off, that is now a habitable space for these other people to live, which is amazing. I recommended you go and try and find like that secret spot up on the digit.
I did find that. That was very cool.
Yes, gives you an incredible view. Like the views in this game are just absolutely stunning. Like there's one,
Especially
I
on
think
Switch.
in the but the waterfall area in Machna Forest, you can find like a hidden alcove that you can basically just dive into the big basin before the waterfall. But that one gives you an amazing view. So many places you can get amazing views.
A bunch in Valak Mountain as well.
Yes, yeah, Valak Mountain's really really good.
Love
But
the
yeah,
music in that area.
Yeah, the music is definitely like I think that a lot of the overworld music is great,
So
but for
good.
me a lot of the music that sticks with me is actually music from cutscenes. My favorite moment in this game is the bananas cutscene near the end where Dixon obviously reveals himself and shoots Shulk in the chest.
Shoot Shulk.
Because shit pops off there. Basically, like I think this is the one where Mainith also like basically takes control of Fiora, and you're fighting as Fiora against Zanza,
Yes,
and then they just
yeah.
go fucking soaring through the sky. And Tragic Decision plays, which is my favorite song on the game, and it is it's pretty fucking incredible. It's so good.
Yeah, that's an insane cutscene. That cutscene's so crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I knew something was up with Dixon because they hinted that pretty heavily. I'm like, okay, he's
Yeah.
tied up in all this. You see him talking with Melia's weird ass stepmom, who honestly she kind of sucks. She's probably the worst villain for me. She's just sort of irrelevant.
Mm-hmm.
And Alvis, and you're like, okay, there's something weird going on. Because I kept telling you too, like there's some fuck shit going on with Alvis. Obviously, I could not have predicted exactly what was going on with Alvis, and I'm not even sure I completely understand it. But
There's a little more to be talked about with Alvis. I
in
was
2
gonna
I've
tell
heard.
you about it. Yeah, you're gonna tell you about it, but I think if you're gonna play 2, then it might be better not to say anything. They basically changed a part of his character design. In the original game, he has a key around his neck.
Yeah, someone told me to look at his necklace. I don't know exactly what that means. I kind of never noticed that, but I'll have to take a look because I was told to pay attention to that. I've also seen people mention Klaus or Claus a lot as well. I'm assuming it's Klaus, so I'm
Yes.
assuming he slash Zanza have something to do with 2. I don't know
Yeah.
exactly what, but
It's really interesting because Takahashi, when 2 was coming out, was like, not connected at all. This is a brand new universe, brand new setting.
Right.
And then you get to the end of 2 and you're like, you motherfucker. Like, this is so connected. Like, in a way that, like, makes it very clear why... I wouldn't say very clear why 3 is happening, but, like, I can see the pieces that lead up to 3, basically, of why these two worlds kind of, like, collide in a way. So, yeah, it's definitely very interesting. Yeah, I maybe we'll just talk. I could just go through like characters and stuff like that,
Sure,
and like
yeah.
what kind of standout moments. I think Shulk, obviously being the central part of this story, has an interesting backstory of like he was basically just a child of circumstance of like he was at Valak Mountain with this patrol, and he was basically the closest to the sword, and so Zanza was like, well, I guess I'm just gonna pick you and I'm just gonna bring you back to life. So Shulk is basically dead, but Zanza basically possesses him to give him life.
Right.
And then obviously like removes himself from Shulk, but Shulk, I don't know, through the power of friendship survives.
he's still alive again or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. How do you feel about Shulk as a protagonist? Like he's pretty chipper, he's a JRPG protagonist, but he screams well.
Yeah,
you know?
but he's
He
not
does a good job.
Rex, you know?
Yes,
Like,
yeah. No, Rex sucks. Rex objectively bad.
Yeah. No, Shulk I think is a pretty good protagonist. He gets some really nice moments, and he's kind of chipper. Like he's definitely like the glue for the group, obviously. But in the very beginning, it's like you expect them to be like, oh, power of friendship, blah blah blah. But it's really not power of friendship. It's more like we will destroy anything that's in our way for revenge, which is like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
it's a little darker than I expected, you know. Um, no, I think Shulk is quite a good protagonist. He has a lot of personality, but enough, typical Japanese thing where it's like still enough where you
Hmm.
can kind of insert yourself into him a little bit. He's not my favorite character, but he's one of my favorite characters, I'd say. Shulk is really good.
He has kind of the obliviousness, right? Of like clearly doesn't know that Fiora is into him.
Yeah, but they make it a character trait, which I like. It's not exclusively that he doesn't know that Fiora's into him. It's also
Yeah.
just like, there's this scene at the beginning of the game that they play again at the end where she's like giving him food and she's like, I
Uh
don't
huh.
even like, does this man have taste buds? Like,
Yeah.
what's
Yeah.
even
He's
going
like,
on there?
it's great. I love everything you make, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So, no, same with her haircut at the end. He's like,
Yeah.
she's like, Shulk, make a decision, man. Like,
Yeah.
he's just like, I don't know. I like it both ways. It's nice. Yeah, he has that energy.
But I like that because it's not just one of those things where it's like, okay, you have weird asexual, not
Uh
trying to
huh.
say asexual people are weird, but I think you
No,
understand
no.
what I'm saying. You have
Yeah,
a
yeah,
weirdly asexual protagonist who is probably not actually asexual, who's just completely oblivious to everything that's happening. But they
yeah,
kind of make it an actual character trait and something that other characters acknowledge. So
yeah.
it makes it
Totally.
more, tolerable to me than Luffy from One Piece or what, a million different anime characters.
Yeah, totally. I think Ryan is a
Ryan's a
fun
bro.
kind of like
He's
side
fun.
side character.
He's a good Samwise Gamgee, right? Like he's not,
Yeah,
the main driving force of the narrative or anything, but he's his buddy and he gets a couple of really nice moments. He gets a few with Charlotte. Their relationship's a little
yeah.
bit weird, I think, but I think it's less weird that it becomes, clearly romantic and more that like it's romantic from the second she sees Ryan. Like as
Right.
soon as
Yeah.
she sees Ryan, she's like, "Oh, Gato, 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 you're just like Gato. Gato
Uh
would say
huh.
this, blah blah blah. You're gonna help me take care of Juju, right?" And Ryan is like, "Oh, what? We just met."
Who is this lady? Yeah,
Yeah.
what is she doing? Yeah, I definitely I think he has like a good kind of groundedness to him. He's always like telling
Yeah.
Shulk to tell the group about stuff that is up in his head. I like that they set that up early. Actually, I think it's early in the mines where Shulk is having visions, and Ryan's like, "Come on, man, you
Very
gotta spit
early,
it out.
yeah.
We're all
With the
gonna die
spider.
if you don't."
Hmm.
Yeah, so I think he's a good kind of grounding force and
He's good.
has some fun like interactions with a lot of the party. So I'm here for
Yeah.
Ryan. It's always Ryan time on my
It's
clock.
always Ryan
So
time.
uh,
Alley-oop.
yeah. Yeah, absolutely. He's good. He's a good dude. Yeah, Charlotte is very much like a
It's just kind of
I
whatever.
what happened to Gatto? I need Gatto. Where's Gatto? That's basically her most of her character.
I really wish, yeah, I wish they gave her more character than just Gato, Gato, Gato. Because
Yeah.
I mean, the female characters in this game, I think, are quite well written for the most part. In
Yeah,
particular,
generally.
Fiora and Melia. But
Yes.
Charlotte, I mean, Charlotte's not like a bad character. She's just kind of there, which is disappointing.
Yeah.
Because she
Yeah.
gets a couple of moments that I really like. At the end, right after the whole prison island sequence, where Melia kind of starts to really realize that she has feelings for Shulk, Charlotte has like a very nice little conversation with her, being like, "I'm on your
Yeah.
side. Like, I support you guys. Like, let's find Fiora, but don't let Shulk forget about you. Come along with
Uh-huh.
us." I'm like, that's a really nice moment. I wish they could have explored their friendship more, but they don't really ever do that.
Yeah, or at least like done a bit more with the dynamics of Melia and Shulk and like having Charlotte involved in that, but they don't
Yes,
really.
yes.
It feels like because everything starts exploding near the end of the game, they don't really have time to do that.
Yeah.
There's this one cutscene I think where like Fiora and Shulk like walk past and Melia's like and then like yeah she
Poor
very
Melia,
clearly
man.
sees that she's out of it. Yeah, yeah, Melia probably like one of the best characters in the game, but also
She's
like
definitely my favorite.
man, the writers don't like her at all, do they? Like, okay, so
No.
first of all, she loses her entire troop of dudes who are guarding her. Then
Right.
she has to go through this trial, betrayed by her fake mother-in-law and her whatever sister who tries to murder her. Then her father gets killed on the top of Prison Island.
Right.
Then her brother gets turned into a Telethia and like absorbed into,
along with all of her people,
along with her
basically all of
entire
people.
race of people, except for the ones who have half Hom's blood because of the entire thing, where they basically, really interesting plot point actually, of this idea that
that I did not expect at all. That was
Right.
a cool moment.
Yeah, where like the elder kind of Hyentia decided, in order to save later generations from the DNA of the Telethia happening, they basically diluted the bloodline in order to have that half part of the DNA, so that they wouldn't transform into Telethia and would be able to survive.
Right.
Which is why they have like the smaller wings, right? It's like
It's also why Melia is chosen as empress, because you see, like,
yes,
in the tomb they say she'll be the last empress, which she is. And that, like, she's the only one that can do it, and it's because she has half Hom's blood that she's not gonna turn into a Telethia. It's a cool little moment.
Yeah, I like the way they set that up, and I think I understood it a lot more like going second time through of Aether and like how that stuff all plays into it, and yeah, it's really interesting. Like this very idea that like Zanza basically created the Hyentia as a race to morph into this other thing that act as guards, defenders of it's like basically like bacteria in a body to like kill viruses almost, right?
Like white blood cells almost.
Yeah, to go around and like murder everything else on it, to like reset almost. And I don't know how many times that has happened throughout history of Zanza basically resetting the clock almost on humanity. But
he said it's happened many times, so we don't.
Yes.
I mean, we don't really know. But
yeah. And I don't know if that's all like before the big fight happens with the Mechonis or not, or like, you know, how long this universe has really existed for. Time is not really kind of addressed in that way, I think, throughout it. But
it is Earth,
I think,
which was kind of a cool reveal. You know, I always thought it was like a different universe, but then you go to space and it's like Jupiter, Mars. Wait, what is happening here?
That moment at the end of the game where you're like going through the planets is like, what the fuck are you doing, game? What is happening here?
Like, it's so cool though. I love that moment.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's really cool. Dunban is a great character. He's one of my favorites. I think I love Dunban.
Gotta love a mentor character that doesn't just, you know,
Yes.
die in the beginning, like, spoilers, fucking Gramps does in Xenoblade 2.
Yeah.
He actually joins along, and I don't know, he even kind of describes himself as like, I'm sort of the adult, like, protector of the group at one point. Yeah, no, Dunban's he's a pleasure.
Yeah, there's a great kind of like, he has interesting relationships throughout, because obviously Dixon and Mumkar, and those are like really interesting and big betrayals for him. But also obviously,
yeah, I mean, that's his Rhine and Fiora.
Yeah, and Fiora is his sister as well. So like, there's this
Right.
interesting like relationship that means he has with Shulk and you know, all the other kind of party members, and
He
also
has-
like has kind of dad energy, like talking with Ricky as well. Like I think
Yeah.
there are a lot of interest. He like fits throughout the group quite well generally.
There's a conversation. I don't remember if it's a heart to heart or a cutscene. I think it's a cutscene. Maybe it's the one with Ricky where he talks about where he's like, Dunban I think is like 32 or 33 or something
Yeah.
like that.
It's the classic like Japanese thing of like Auron in Final Fantasy X is like 30, but he's treated like the oldest man of all time.
Well, sure,
very
but
very
you know.
much a trope, but yeah.
But he talks about where he's like 30s, like early 30s, and Shulk, Rhine, and Fiora are all 18. And their parents died. We don't get a ton of backstory because it doesn't particularly matter. But their parents died when they were very young. So, you know, with him being basically twice her age, he always felt like more of a father than a brother to Fiora,
Right.
which is kind of an interesting dynamic between the two. And he says, like, if Fiora was to ever be in a relationship with anyone, I always wanted it to be you, Shulk, which is cute, I guess.
Gives his blessing, you know. It's nice. And yeah, so Dunban's fantastic. I love all the kind of interactions he has. And Ricky, obviously.
Their kiss is very cute, by the way, Shulk and Fiora.
Yeah,
That's a sweet moment.
on the beach. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
finding the water and reviving her. That's very very cool.
Yeah, basically doing CPR, and her first words were like,
Yeah.
"Oh, it's my first kiss."
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's very very well done, and I think Ricky is, again, he's like one of the characters you can kind of say is a bit throwaway in terms of he's the joke comedic relief, but I think there's a bit more like to Ricky, especially when you compare him to other Nopon in the series.
I mean, yeah, he's a father. He's like 40 years old too.
Yeah, exactly. has like 200 children or whatever, and
Yeah.
constantly is getting berated by his family and stuff like
Yeah.
that, which is it's funny. Yeah, I think he's a goofball, but
Right, and he becomes the Harrowpon, like the hero of Frontier Village because he's in debt.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah, he has to do it. He has to like pay
He's
it
trying
off
to pay a debt
basically.
off. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
No, Ricky's pretty great. He's annoying in the beginning, but I think you do sort of. I came around on Ricky. I thought I was gonna be like pissed off by him the entire game, but he's pretty fun. And honestly, his cutscene when he's like fishing with Charla and Ryan at the very
uh
end of the
huh.
game, that was very cute. I thought
It's
that was a
great.
funny
Yeah.
moment.
Yeah, I love that ending theme as well. Like the music that plays in
Oh,
that
so
final
good.
cutscene is amazing. It's really really good. And then Fiora, I guess Fiora is really interesting, obviously, because she
Yeah,
dies and then comes back, and then she has this whole thing with her
this
body.
weird
Like
mech.
obviously, yeah, which
I think I told you I liked her design, which I did until I put another piece of armor on
uh
her, and
huh,
then it
yeah,
became closer to like a Xenoblade 2 character.
yeah, that's kind of the closest it gets
Not
with
quite
her.
as bad. Not quite as
No,
bad, but
but
and
it feels like a lot of her like mechon armor is designed in that specific way, which
yeah,
I get it, but it's what they're gonna do.
I
Yeah, I think there's
guess.
more interesting like ideas around her sense of self and identity and like her body, like and whether that
Mm.
makes her still Homs or whether it's like
Whether she's
what
Machina
defines
now.
you. Yeah, what defines you as
Yeah,
human? Like I like transhumanism is a fascinating subject, I think, and I think
for sure.
they kind of like touch on it with her at least, which is very cool. Although I don't know how I feel about them kind of like undoing it all at the end. I guess Shulk kind of has the power of a god, so he can do whatever he wants. But yeah,
Yeah, I had a
yeah,
feeling it was coming, but
yeah,
you know, I don't know.
it
I
makes
think it would
sense.
have sort of been more interested if she stayed as like a Machina, but I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I think like the way that she gets tied up with Lady Mayneth is also really fascinating, and the kind of
Manus is great. Manus a really cool character.
yes, yeah. I think that for me, the reveal that the Mechon are not the kind of race of people who live on Mechonis, but there is actually a mechanical form of life called Machina. When you get to the Fallen Arm village and like meet them and just
That was
figure out
super
what's going
cool.
on,
Yeah.
it's really cool. Yeah, and I think that's part of the reason it's one of my favorite areas in the game is like that reveal of them as like a and basically the other side of this war that the Homs didn't know about or anyone really knew about. They just basically saw
Hmm.
the Mechon as just pure mechanical creations, but this other form of life exists that are the Machina and
Yeah.
are basically decimated. And Egel's entire like identity and sense of
I mean,
self.
that's it. That's his whole people right there
Yeah,
in the hidden village. Like that's it.
right. Yeah, and then his dad asked you to go kill him, which
Yeah.
is a thing. Certainly, like interesting.
I love the dad. He doesn't get like a ton, but he's
No,
very funny. His voice
he's just
acting's
like this
good.
massive dude, and it's like,
He's
okay,
huge.
I like
And
this guy.
his like I don't even know who the hell he'd be talking about, but like when you first see him and I think Ryan or something's like, "Whoa, you're huge." And he's like, "Oh,
Yeah,
I love meeting people for the first time. Love hearing them say
yeah,
that." It's like,
yeah,
who are you seeing this
yeah,
frequently? I don't know.
yeah. It's pretty wild. I like him a lot, and it's also interesting of
Well,
like,
they're also like thousands of years old, right?
yes, yeah, but
Yeah.
like Dixon seems to be an old friend of his, so like that probably like clocks on as well. Like, I guess Dixon has been around for a while.
Dixon and Alvis, they get around. Those
Yeah,
two. They know
they
everybody.
definitely do. They yeah. I mean, they're the support squad for sure.
Yeah.
And yeah. So I guess like there are obviously a bunch of other like Egil is a really interesting villain.
Eagle's
Like
great.
I like him as a villain a lot. His entire like motivation of his like. And this is an interesting thing about Future Connected. So Future Connected is the landmass that you're exploring, the Bionis Shoulder area, is an area that was originally going to be in the base game,
Right.
but they
Yeah, it
had to
was
cut
cut.
it for time constraints. You can actually see it in one of the cutscenes when they're talking about the past of the Bionis. You see the Telethia like fly over it, so that you could see it was intended to be part of the game. And they had like these huts that were like a certain size that implied that the giants lived there. So there was, I think, originally going to be that's where the giants were. And obviously, the only giant we see in the game is Arglus, who's actually Zanza, because Zanza has obviously like kind of taken control
Right.
of him. Yeah, Egil's entire driving motivation of the Monado basically overtook his friend Arglus, the giant, who then was basically poisoned by Zanza and overtaken by him, and they had to lock him away and everything. But like he was the driving force between that first attack on the Mechonis, and yeah, it's I like that kind of backstory, and how long Egil has been around for, and like having to see the destruction of his people as a result of Zanza is it's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, no, Egil's great. You can kind of see just the more you find out about him that there's probably going to be a flip to him being like one of the good
Yes.
guys, but it's still really well done, and their conversation at the very end and how he ends up like controlling the Mechonis basically just to, I don't know, make it so that they can get out and life can continue
Mm-hmm.
living. It's a noble sacrifice. Egil is cool, and he has a very
Yeah.
strange, almost robotic voice, but it kind of works weirdly. It's cool.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, there's I do like it's also I think the game does a really good job of like having these individual characters that almost represent like parts of the wider kind of like people who exist on the Bionis, like having Callian almost as a representative of all the Hyentia, and you have Atharon and Juju.
He's great. I like Callian a lot as well.
Yeah, like just kind of pulling together the forces, like the when they kind of like mount an offensive at the end, like all the forces like going towards the Mechonis, and then like the when Egil starts moving the sword and all the people on Sword Valley, you just see bodies just start falling. Like
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
fucking they really go for it in that sense. It doesn't hold back when
No.
it comes to like the full scale of the conflict basically, and how much it affects like everybody, because like every strike that happens on the Bionis is like murdering a bunch of people, right? Like
Yeah.
it's pretty dark. Definitely goes places. So yeah, I think that's really
I was
cool.
so excited to see Dunban's form at the end because as soon as it's like, oh, I've been Zanza's disciple, it's like, okay, so you're not a Homs. I want to see what your actual form looks like. And you get
Dixon's,
that
you
boss
mean?
fight.
Yeah,
Yeah, Dixon.
yeah,
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 that was kind of fun.
yeah, yeah.
Dixon's great.
It's a cool unfurling, right, of like the disciples, like Zanza. I think that the twist with Zanza is really nice because originally Zanza you think
Well, you
is
think Zanza is the giant, not
yes,
like,
exactly.
yeah,
You think he's the one who's been hidden away. You don't really know who Zanza is, and
no.
then you see him, and he
They keep saying like heir to Zanza, like
yes,
and at one point Egil calls Shulk Zanza, and like Shulk has
yeah,
no idea what that means.
right.
With further context, it makes a lot of sense, obviously,
Exactly.
but
Yeah.
still,
Yeah, because I think it's Metalface who throws the spear that kind of skewers Zanza
yeah,
or Arglus as Zanza. But yeah, there's a famous line where he's like, "Let the shackles be released," and he's just like holding his
yes,
arms up, and basically gives you like access to more
the
powerful
Monado
Monado.
too. Yeah,
Which also kind of gets him to get his claws in a bit deeper into Shulk and
hmm
control him a little bit more, which is just really interesting stuff. So like Shulk almost creating his undoing by freeing Zanza or like unchaining him, and
hmm
it's because of like how long it's been, how much time has passed. Like no one really knows who this guy is, what's happened, why he was locked away,
right.
and so yeah, I think the idea at the end that no, the real enemy was like the entity that was controlling the Bionis all along, I think is just a nice inversion. And like right near the end when
Yeah,
you're having that final conflict with Egil, and it's like, well, this is the main villain. It's like, no, actually, let's flip everything on its head. Actually, Dixon was in on it this whole time, and was driving Shulk to defeat Egil because Egil is the enemy of Zanza. So
hmm
yeah, it's really cool.
Again, it's not like the most revolutionary narrative twist that it's like,
No.
oh, the bad guys ended up being the good guys and vice versa, but
Uh-huh.
it works really well. The
It's just
game just,
effectively done, right? Like
yeah,
it's like the
yeah.
pacing of it and the way that it is
And the
just kind of
reveals and the characters are just all so likable, even again if they're not, most of them, like Ryan is not the most complex character in the world, but he's just like
no.
he's just pleasant on screen, and you enjoy his presence. So I don't know,
Yeah.
just the story in this game, as I said, it's just firing on all cylinders. It's not gonna like blow your mind and change your life mostly. Oh, actually, maybe the ending is a little crazy.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
but
Yeah.
but for the most part, it's not gonna like change your perspective on media. But it's very very just well done.
Yeah, totally. And I mean, like, all the kind of stuff about gods, and it's very, Takahashi is very interested.
That stuff is quite interesting. Yeah.
He's very interested in theology and like Christian theology specifically, and I think a lot of his games kind of touch on these ideas and themes. And
yeah, Xenogears in particular, I've heard. I kind of,
yes.
I loved how they handled it at the end for the most part, but I just wish there was more of it because I
Yeah.
live for that kind of stuff.
Totally. And I think that 3 is probably going to dig in ways like that.
That's what it seems like. It seems like 2, there's basically none of it until the very end, probably.
Yeah,
But
yeah, kind of. I don't know. It's that's a weird game, but
yeah, there's more, blushy crushy or whatever in 2.
uh-huh. Yeah, no, there's a lot of that for sure. Yeah, are there any other like moments that stood out to you, or like areas that you really enjoyed exploring? Like what parts of the game like stick out to you a lot?
At first, Valak Mountain kind of annoyed me because it's
Okay.
very vertical.
Yes.
And there's lots of paths that sort of intersect on top of each other. So
Yeah, the map is not great for navigating Valak Mountain,
yeah,
I would say.
and there's not enough waypoints, I would say, on that map. But the actual like twists and turns you find on Valak Mountain are super super cool. Um, did you ever reach the peak of Valak Mountain?
I think I did with like the springs that shoot you super high.
There's literally like a ski slope where you like slide down and you have to jump
Yes.
to get to the top. That was super super cool. I
There's
like
weird
that a lot.
platforming in this game. Yeah, that's like one of those moments where you.
Mostly in Valak Mountain because
Yeah.
there's that like slide, that like Mario 64-esque like slide.
Yes. Yeah. It's
I love the idea of it, but the way the movement engine is in this game, it doesn't particularly work super well.
it's not really built for it, is it?
No.
I'll always take a jump button in a game. Like I will always prefer that
Oh, for
because
sure.
it feels like it gives you a bit more control. And also, I like jumping off of things in Xenoblade. Like the distance you fall is amazing.
I just wish there wasn't fall damage because it's
Yeah.
fun to jump off stuff. I know X doesn't have fall damage, which seems fun.
Yes.
So I
Yeah.
really like Valak Mountain, in particular at night. It's gorgeous with the like kind of orange lights all over the place.
For sure. Yeah.
Where else did I like? Fallen Arm.
Hmm.
Satoral Marsh
I
is
love Satoral
beautiful
Marsh.
at night. Gorgeous
Yeah.
at night. Um, it's like you're walking through like Aurora Borealis or something. It's
Yeah.
super
It's
cool
amazing.
how it's done. That's another area where I think there could have been a couple more waypoints. In particular, there's that one super long quest chain with like the Nopon on the hill, and there's no
Uh huh.
waypoint right next to him, so you have to keep
Right.
doing like a 2 or 3 minute walk just to talk to him and get the next quest, which doesn't sound that
Yeah.
bad. But when you're doing it like 7 or 8 times, it's just a little bit annoying.
Yeah. The side
That's the
quests in this
thing.
game are weird. Like they're very kind of by the numbers. I would say like there are some with some interesting like side narratives that you can go down, but
I'm gonna be honest. I kind of like skimmed through all of it. I didn't
yeah.
really read any of it.
Yeah, for
I
sure.
have heard there's a few that are fun, like the red pollen orb stuff and
Yeah,
whatever.
the
But
kind of drug dealing Nopon, that's a
yeah,
fun one.
yeah.
But yeah, aside from that, there's not a lot going on.
I missed that. I was watching a Choga Conroy Let's Play because I was sort
Yeah.
of doing the grind for Endgame, which that's another thing we can talk about.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, I saw that there's like a secret area in Alchemoth you can go to, and like there's like the Nopon drug dealers and stuff. I didn't get to any of that, which was unfortunate. And I was doing it after Makana's Core, where Alchemoth is kind of closed down. That's another. We forgot to mention Alchemoth. Alchemoth is
Alchemoth's
super 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 cool.
amazing.
That is the moment where I was really sold on the game. I was having fun up until then, and I was kind of
Hmm.
pushing on because like I wanted. I've seen all this stuff about Dunban and Ricky and Melia and stuff, but I'd never played as them from the amount that I played on 3DS. So I was excited just to unlock them and see how they play. But once you get to Alchemoth, it's like, wow, there's actually like politics and
Uh-huh.
things going on here. It's super cool.
Yeah, that entire like space is so it is like the height of technology, right? When you're comparing it to Colony 6 and Colony 9, and like you see the vast like difference in progress basically that the Hyentia have over the
Yeah.
rest of the entire world.
I mean, they're
and, like,
essentially elves in like pretty much
they
all
are,
fantasy
yeah.
media.
And classic fantasy trope of the kind of like highest class, highest stature race,
Yeah.
physically
Literally
at the highest
They're
point.
on the head
Yeah.
of the Bionis. Yeah.
Right. I love the fact that the head of the Bionis is just a giant lake, basically. Like, there's just a bunch
Yeah.
of water in there. So it's implied his brain is just like you're swimming in the brain juice of the Bionis, basically.
I will say, not the biggest fan of the RFC. I think it's like an interesting idea, but just like all
Yeah.
the teleporters and stuff, it's okay.
Yeah,
It's
that stuff can get a little tricky and annoying. But I did love just swimming around it because the scale of it is just astronomical. It's just so
Mhm.
fucking huge in a way that like you could spend 2 hours just swimming around the perimeter. It's that
Yeah,
big.
yeah.
So yeah, it's great at presenting scale, I would say. And having Alchemoth as that kind of like gem in the center of it is really good. Yeah, lots of good parts to that game.
My least favorite area, I would say, and we talked about this a little bit, is I'm not a huge fan of the Mechanis. It
Same here.
feels
Yeah.
like a huge dungeon, which it's like, okay, they hadn't really had a very dungeony area. The only other
Right.
real dungeon area I can think of is the Ether Mines.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's really long and it's very samey and it looks all the same. It's not like horrible, but it's I don't know. It just feels like you have all these huge narrative beats going on, and then you kind of got to grind this dungeon to continue on.
They split it into three sections, and you would think they would visually distinguish them, but
No, they
like,
look identical, basically.
no, the Mechonis like first area, then the factory, then Agneritha. Like Agneritha, like is a little more interesting with like the Dead Telethia bridges and stuff like that. But
Yeah,
at the end of the
that's definitely
day,
the coolest part of the Mechonis, but it's still
yeah,
very similar. And I was really
yeah,
excited because, I had heard you go to the Mechonis, which is not, you'd kind of assume you would if you're going to have this
totally.
entirely other, world next to your own. And I was
Mm-hmm.
excited to see like how they do, beautiful Xenoblade, like open world-esque landscapes, but,
Uh huh.
sort of mechanical themes, but they don't really do that. It's just you're sort of climbing a tower inside the Mechonis.
Yes. Yeah, and you do go outside like time to time and get elevator shoots to put you up there and stuff
Yeah.
like that. And there's also the Godot fight, which
Yeah.
when I played Elden Ring, I was fighting Radahn. I was like, oh, this is just the Godot fight from Xenoblade, which I thought was a funny like. I'm not sure how many people would have related those two, but
What do you mean by that?
have you fought Radahn in
Yeah,
Elden
yeah.
Ring? Yeah, so basically the Gato fight is you have to run, all the way to him. He's at the end of a giant fucking corridor.
Oh, yeah, 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 yeah. The first Gato fight, because you fight him
Yes.
again. Yeah.
Right, yeah, but the first one you basically have to run down this corridor avoiding his beam,
It's
and
like a stealth section almost,
yeah,
because
you
you
have to
have
like
to like
fight minor enemies on the way and
and
like
hide behind the little walls.
right,
Yeah.
the future sight will pop up, so it gives you like a timer almost to
Hmm.
get behind cover, and as soon as you get behind cover, it like kills it. So yeah, it's basic. That's why I was saying it's like Radahn because you're trying to get towards him while
Yeah.
avoiding shots that he's kind of putting your way,
It's
essentially.
it's an
So
interesting little experiment. I don't love it, but it was cool that they tried something new. So this is
yeah,
one thing I did want to mention. Probably one of the more negative aspects to the game for me. I really like the combat system overall, but the way that the combat system feels in this game, and sort of just the manner that you fight enemies, pretty much every enemy, including bosses, sort of feel like the same fight to me. There's not too much variety in like the way or strategy that you'd use to fight enemies. Basically,
yeah.
enemies might have different abilities, like they might have like Spike where you have to use
Oh
Mana
god,
Purge on
Spike
it.
fucking sucks. I hate Spike so
Yeah,
bad.
Spike is really annoying. Or they might have like they might be resistant to break or something like that. But for the
Yeah.
most part, the manner that you kill even just like your basic enemies, it's going to be the
Mm-hmm.
same strategy that you use in boss fights. Where boss fights are
Yeah.
obviously longer and more difficult. But I don't know. That was a little bit of a letdown for me. There's not too
Yeah.
much variety between fights.
There are a couple of exceptions. So the Lorithia
There are a
fight
few.
in the Bionis Center, the like
Hmm.
second to last area you go to, is it's a really hard fight for a lot of people. Partially
Yeah.
because the AI is stupid and stands in the poison, but also
Yep.
because she takes more damage from Aether based stuff as opposed to other stuff. It's much smarter to play as Melia and use
Hmm.
Melia against her than any other character because it will just be a pain to take her health down otherwise. So yeah, that's one where I definitely the first time through had to switch up my strategy and play as a different character in order to
Yeah.
get through her. But yeah, you're right. I don't think there's and partially I think it's because like MMOs are kind of like this as well in a way of like I think they do more of a job of you're dodging out of the way of different things, and like you're looking for attacks that the boss is going to do on the ground and moving to different areas, but really you're just doing the same kind of rotations every time of like
Yeah,
this move leads
exactly.
to this move, so it's just going to inevitably cause the same problem.
There's combos, and you just like always like for Shulk, it was always like
Yeah,
Shadow Eye, buff physical arts, get it off
right.
you, break in the front, then go to the side, do slit edge
Hmm.
to air slash, then backslash, and it's just do that, repeat, repeat, repeat.
Yeah. Which I would say Xenoblade 2 probably has the same issue overall. Like, a lot of it is building up these giant kind of, these orbs that kind of float around enemies and then just breaking those orbs. Like, I basically did the same.
I've heard topple break is a lot more important in 2 than it is in 1, because it's definitely useful in
Yeah.
1, but like if you don't have a break topple party, you're not like screwed, you know?
Yeah. It depends. I would say that 2. Like, that's important to some degree, but actually 2 is far more important with its own systems of like the orb, like the elemental orb system and breaking
Hmm.
those orbs. That's where you do the big damage. Like, by the end of the game in 2, the final boss, I had a combo that did half his health in one hit, and it was about 2 million damage in one hit.
Oh my God.
And yeah, you can really break that game in fun ways. But
I see. I like
like you were
that though.
saying, yeah, but like you were saying, it's generally the same kind of tactics you're using to get to that point every time. Like, there's a little bit of variety to it because you're going down these different paths with each character of like, okay, I'm gonna use this elemental followed by this one, which will lead to this certain type of orb, and then I have to use a different one. So you have to kind of use a different set, but I don't think each enemy has like particular weaknesses or things that you really
Hmm.
have to exploit in that way. So
Yeah, it's
yeah,
not like Persona where it's like you've got your
no,
almost Pokemon-esque system with
yeah,
elements
yeah.
and stuff.
Yeah, very different to that. So yeah, any other kind of aspects of Xenoblade One you want to mention that we haven't talked about yet?
I don't know. I think a lot of the systems make sense once you sort of like once they click into place. But
Yeah,
like I was not talking to all the named NPCs in a town, which
right.
you really should do because it increases area infinity. And not only
Uh
that,
huh.
but like some quests won't open up unless you've had like baseline dialogue with an NPC. Like then after you talk to them.
Did you get far with the Colony 6 stuff? Did you do much of that?
No, I mean that's another thing. The grind
Yeah.
for those materials are frustrating, and you can buy them in
Yes.
Definitive Edition, but you can't buy them until the very last portal, like right outside
Right.
the end of the game. So
Yeah.
I don't know. It was frustrating. If I ever did like decide to go through New Game Plus or something, I'll probably grind Colony 6 because
Uh huh.
I think there's maybe particular like fifth skill trees for some characters or like arts manuals or something like that that you can't get without it. So
Hmm.
I'll consider it, but I got everything to like level 2 or 3 and kind of
Okay.
stopped there.
Yeah. Yeah. It's one of those things I tried to do a bit more, but
Yeah,
yeah,
I
it's
will
hard.
say the other thing that's frustrating about it, so there will be some of those quests where like you need to collect X amount of item orbs, and when you have those quests, it will mark what item orb like you need to pick up. It's not just like a random guess blue item orb. There will be an exclamation point, so it's like, "Oh, this is, prairie dragonfly or whatever you need for the
Yeah.
quest," which it doesn't do for the Colony 6 stuff, which is frustrating because some of those items are
Yes.
really, really rare.
I
And you
found
have
that
to just,
really annoying. It was
yeah,
very frustrating doing that stuff.
yeah, I wish you could track the Colony 6 quest because every time you're like, oh shit, what did I need again? You have to teleport back to Colony 6 and talk to
Yep.
Juju and look at all of it. It's cumbersome.
Yeah, I can't believe they didn't build that into the quest system. It just doesn't make any sense to me. But
I know because there still is the system where you get a vision when you need to pick up a Colony 6 item. It'll say, "Oh, I
right,
need this for Colony 6." So it's like, "Okay, I won't sell it." But you still can't track it on the map or anything.
no,
It's
yeah,
frustrating.
yeah. It was even worse in the original because they didn't have
Yeah, I've
any
heard.
tracking stuff in the
Yeah.
original. So it was definitely an improvement. They should have gone the whole way with it, I think, as
Also,
opposed to
this is one of the biggest improvements I noticed from the original to this, where instead of just like a little, classic MMO like arrow pointing at the top of the screen, there's actually like a path drawn so you can see how you need to get to each objective. That was
yeah,
really, really nice. I'm excited to go to 2 and have it be stupid arrow again.
yeah, yeah. I think 3 has a navigational system they showed off, right? That does.
Yeah, it does. And you can actually, it's not just on the mini map. You can like hit a button and you'll see like footprints on the actual world, so you don't have to just
Yes,
stare on the mini map, which is really
yeah.
nice.
That's quality of life stuff that I like to see for sure.
3 looks really good.
Yeah, so maybe let's transition into talking about the other games in the series. You said to me you bought two because you're like after playing
I
one, you're
bought
like I
two.
just need to figure out what's going on with this second game. So yeah, have you started it or are you intending to play it soon?
So I bought it physical. I bought it
Okay.
physical because I got one physical and I'm gonna get three physical. So it's like I'd feel weird having one and three physical, but not
Uh
two.
huh. Yeah,
So
that makes
I got it
sense.
physical. I'm lucky because there was a period of time for a little while where two had actually the carts had gone out of like manufacture, so that none of them were being produced.
Yeah, I
So
remember that.
yeah, they'd go, your normal $60 game because Nintendo games going on sale, dropping in
Mm-hmm.
price. That's crazy. Your
Impossible.
normal $60 game from 5 years ago was up to like 85, $90. But I think there was another limited print that they did after Pyramithra got into Smash Brothers, so I got it
Yeah, that makes
for like
sense.
the normal 60. So yeah, that was cool. One of my
Yeah.
questions was actually going to be, I have heard that the grind in the beginning of two is very rough, and I've heard you should get the expansion pass anyway because it's like cheaper than buying Torna on its own, and you get some extra bonuses. And I've heard some of the like core crystals and stuff you get as the DLC items helps like speed up the early game of two. So I don't know. Do you think I
Yeah.
should just get the DLC right away so I can get like those
Uh, I
core
mean, I
crystals?
played it. I played it at launch, and I didn't have. I mean, I beat it in 10 days, as I said. So
Yeah.
I kind of burned through that game. I don't think I really had much of an issue. Like I did a little bit of core crystal grinding because you can do the whole like
Yeah.
fishing under the in the cloud sea to get some crystals. And
I'm not worried about struggling necessarily. It's more just like
no,
anything I can do to make that early game go quicker.
yeah, I mean, you'll get some good like unique blades. You should at least early on. So I don't think like the main game progression having good blades is like a big deal. I think it's more of a
Yeah.
collector's thing. And obviously, if you want to do all the blade
I've
quests,
heard in particular, yeah, I've heard in particular Fiora is like super strong. Her blade is
oh
like
right,
OP.
yeah, 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 all that stuff. I have not messed with any of the like characters from the other games, like Elmer and
Yeah.
stuff coming in. I've not tried any of that stuff because all that came post release. And yeah, I mean I think you can jump in fine and not have a problem. I would say that Torna is obviously worth playing. I think Torna's great. Really
Hmm.
enjoyed that. But
Yeah, I've heard Torna's
yeah,
really good. Um,
yeah, I think Xenoblade 2 is just for me. I really love it. I do think that in terms of music and like locations and stuff, it's still really great. It just character wise and story wise, it just doesn't hold up to the first game for me
yeah,
in any
and
way.
design wise.
Um, and design wise, yeah. I mean, as we said, leaning into the worst of anime tropes, like Fiora's outfits compared to Pyra and Mithra is like nothing, right? Like
Yeah.
it is just not even a question. So
Well, I mean, there's also like Fiora. I will say the camera does not like linger on it or anything like that.
no, no, yeah,
There might be like a medium shot where you see like her torso, so
right.
you can see her body, but there's no like ass and titty shots like there are with like Pyra.
Yeah, no, it's not. It's definitely you can tell the composition is more focused on her as a character and not her assets. Let's say.
Sure.
So that's and which is not really the case with like there's a bunch of weird lewd stuff they do in two. So
No, there are literal like ass shots in that game,
yeah,
or
yeah, very
like when you
deliberate.
first see Pyra, you see her face, and then the camera like zooms in on her breast. It's like, okay,
Uh
I
huh.
I mean I see what you're doing, game. It's
Yeah, and
it's
like Rex, the first thing he does in that dream, she's like,
yeah,
"Touch my
touch my
chest," and he's
chest.
just like, "Oh," you know. Anyway, I think Rex is a very boring, bad protagonist, and like
Yeah, I feel like I'm gonna hate him.
yeah, he sucks. I think Nia is cool, but also I said to you, I think Nia she sounds like a 40-year-old Welsh woman, and she's like a looks like a 16-year-old girl. So it just
Yeah.
the match it just feels so off to me, which is super weird. And there are some good like Morag is great. I like Morag quite a bit. Like there are some good characters.
Yeah, I've heard Morag and Bridget are really good.
There are good characters in there, but I think the ultimate like main plot is super convoluted, and like there's a lot of stuff about like there's these interrelations that make sense to some degree, and then they're just like a little bit weird, and there's a lot of like flashbacks to this previous time, and I
Yeah,
don't know,
the
it just
Torna
doesn't.
time. Is that
the
it?
Torn in Time, it doesn't
Yeah.
really come together for me as like a story on its own. And only at the very end, when they tie it into the first game, was I like, oh, now I'm here for it. But the only reason is because they do stuff with, it's related to the first game. That's the only reason I care. So.
Also heard the final boss you fight like 5 times or something throughout the game.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, yeah, there's the kind of like big antagonistic group you come across a lot in the game, and so you do, yeah, you probably have quite a few fights with that group generally and the people who are a part of it. But yeah, I just don't think it's a very strong crew of antagonists, which I think is actually part of the reason why Xenoblade 1 is so great, is because I think the antagonists, each section of the game, you have a really strong driving antagonist with Metal Face at the beginning, and then you have Egil.
Zord is really fun.
Yeah, even Zord is like a primary, like first one, and then to Metal Face, and then to Egil, and then to Zanza. Like it's a really great progression. Whereas with 2, it's just kind of like, I don't know, this dude is like, he looks like a goth almost, and he's just like, I'm kind of a dude, and I'm lame. I'm called Malos. Malos means bad in Latin, so that's why my name is bad. I've
heard he's the primary antagonist.
Yeah, it kind of sucks.
Yeah.
So yeah, look, there's some things to be enjoyed by 2. Obviously, the battle system I think is fantastic. But
that's what I'm mostly excited for, and also just the blade stuff, and I don't know, man. I collect like magic cards and stuff, so being able to gamble without spending actual money.
you might fall into that trap.
I might like it.
I will say that like the quests associated with those blades are also often very frustrating, and there's like a gating system that is based around like certain field skills that you have, and it was the biggest bummer in the world, because you would come across a thing and you'd be like, oh shit, a treasure chest. Oh, I have to have this specific field skill to use it. And not only are those field skills like impossible to acquire, but you have to switch out the specific blade that is equipped to your party member into the party in order to have that field skill activate. It is so fucking annoying. Like, why do they not just access it from any party member? That if you even have the blade, if you own the blade, just let it happen. It's a baffling design decision. And I think that's why 3 excites me, because I think it's kind of just smoothing out a lot of the rough edges that 2 basically brought to the fold.
Because the idea of field skills I think is really cool, that it's like, oh, your party members actually have some utility like during exploration, which is, the other main pillar of Xenoblade. If the 3 are like exploration, combat, and narrative.
Right.
Yeah, but just the way they handled it seems completely nonsensical.
Yeah, totally. But yeah, you're playing 2 now, and maybe we'll come back and do another chat about.
It'll be soon. I'm gonna play Future Connected first, I think.
Okay, all right.
I played about an hour of it, and it seems fine. I've heard a lot of people are not huge fans of it, but everyone's saying like, oh, it's gonna be important for 3. So
yeah, kind of. I guess we'll see how that goes. But. I don't know. I think like the end of it is important in just setting something up, but the rest of it is just kind of like a fun, good time, just going around this place. And
maybe I'll watch a cutscene then, because I think I kind of want to. If I don't get to it before 2 comes in, like I kind of want to just get started on 2, because that's another long game.
To be honest with you, I don't know how important it really will be in the grand scheme of things. I think it might just be more of a teaser than anything else. But yeah, we'll see when 3 rolls around. But
is Torna worth playing as well?
Yeah, Torna. I would say Torna is it's a more refined version of the combat system, actually, alongside being a more.
It's kind about 20 hours, I think I saw as well, right?
Yeah, it's a smaller, more personal story that also, I think, I wouldn't say gets bogged down, but like you have to do a certain number of side quests to get to the main quest, which is a weird thing.
With better designs, I've noticed as well. A lot of those character designs is like, wow, this looks like a person.
No, Laura. I think Laura was in the first in Xenoblade 2, right? You see her at some point, but she is definitely far more well-designed female character.
She's really cool, I've heard.
Yeah, she's cool. Jin, also interesting, and Adam, and all stuff going on with that, I think is...
And Mithra. I've seen you get a lot of Mithra backstory, too.
Yeah, totally. So, Torna has some good stuff in it. I enjoyed playing through it. I think it's perfectly fine. I think overall it might actually be a stronger package than Xenoblade 2 overall, all put together. Yeah. It's just like toned down and just a bit more grounded, and I think that works to its advantage. So yeah, I'd say Torna is worth playing. But yeah, I would say that 3 is exciting. I'm excited about 3. How do you feel of like very clearly, Melia is in this game. How does that happen? Also,
Yeah.
very clearly, Nia is in this game. How the fuck does that happen? So, yeah, what are your thoughts going into 3? And yeah, how do you feel
I
about it?
don't know. I'm so excited. I watched that direct, and that's kind of what made me decide to pick up Definitive Edition in the first place, because it was always a
Yeah.
game I wanted to get around to. But I saw that direct, I was like, man, this looks cool. It's like these like characters only have 10 years to live or something like that.
Yeah.
What an
Right.
interesting concept. I
It's a
don't
great
know.
setup.
It's a really cool setup, yeah. And obviously there's lots of sort of similar where there's a war going on just like there is in 1, and you have sort of
Yes.
Bionis versus Mechonis, but they're the two I don't remember what the nations are called, but
I think it's Agnes,
yeah.
Keves, and Agnes, right?
Yeah, it's not that sounds correct. And I saw the character design, I was like, "Oh my God, this character design doesn't make me like embarrassed to like
Uh-huh.
play this game in front of people."
It's like you kind of want that naive angel mode from Bayonetta 3 in every game now,
Yeah,
right? Of
right?
like, someone walks in the room and is like, oh, I can play Bayonetta 3 without people looking at it and me feeling embarrassed by playing
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, me having to like explain to my friends that, "Oh, no,
Yeah.
you guys don't get it."
It's fine. It's her hair. Her hair is her power,
Yeah.
so it just has to, be removed from her body. Her hair is actually her outfit.
Just wait till you hear Pyra's backstory, okay?
Yeah.
I know Rex was just sleeping in Mithra's bed, but like it makes sense. Don't worry.
Look, guys, you will be ashamed of your words and deeds because Quiet, she breathes through her skin. Come
Yeah,
on, guys. That's
exactly.
why she has to be practically naked. She breathes through her skin. It was so obvious.
But you know what? I respect Kojima for that one because that dude just said like fuck it. You know what I mean?
It's just so
I can
dumb.
respect him for it. He wanted like an anime titty girl in his game, and he
Uh-huh.
got it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, he did
good
it.
for him. It's a little bit different than
Yeah.
Xenoblade, where with blushy crushy and
Uh-huh.
all the weird poppy stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Tora just sucks. Every cutscene I've seen, because like I don't know, just I've been watching sort of while I was playing 1 because I've just been so morbidly curious about 2 for a
Mm-hmm.
long time. I was watching some of those like hour-long sort of analyses of 2,
Okay.
and every single scene I've seen Tora in, I want to like turn my headphones off.
Uh-huh.
I think I
Yeah.
hate that character, and I haven't even
He
played the
fucking
game.
sucks. He is a nightmare. Should be destroyed. Yep. Terrible, terrible character. In every single way.
Is he worse than Tatsu?
Oh yeah, yeah. I think Tatsu basically just cooks for the most part and doesn't do too much offensive. Maybe
And haha, he's a potato, right? Like
he's a
isn't that the
potato.
running
Yeah,
joke?
yeah. I think so. They
Yeah.
want to cook him. That's kind of as far as Tatsu goes. As far as I remember, it's been a while since I played
Yeah.
X, but
Yeah.
yeah. I'm really interested.
He's not like a sexual predator or whatever.
No,
like Tora.
no, yeah, he is not. I'm interested in to like talk about like some of the characters in 3. It's very clear that part of this crew is Xenoblade 1 people and part of this crew is Xenoblade 2 people.
Interesting,
From
really.
from the idea that Noah and Uni and Lans are all clearly Noah's a Homs, Uni is a Hyentia,
Oh,
and
right,
Lans
yes.
Lans is a Machina
Yeah,
slash.
yeah.
Yeah, I think he is. He's supposed to be a Machina,
'Cause
and then
he's got the like purple skin, so
right, and then the other side you have Senna, who's a blade. You have Mio, who is a Morgotti. No, what? I'm thinking of the boss from Elden Ring, Morgoth. Gormotti, sorry, Gormotti. That Gormott.
Okay.
Gormott is the continent where the weird cat Welsh people live, basically. So Mio is a Gormotti, and who's the third character on that side? Tyon. I don't think Tyon. I don't know if he has any like direct connection. He seems just like another regular Homs who also exists from Xenoblade 2 universe. But yeah, they're very clearly like both from those separate universes, and I'm just really fascinated on like how they kind of pull this all together. Because there are theories I have about how it could have happened, but I feel like they're gonna have big reveals based around what happened here,
Yeah.
which is why I do think to some degree it's important to play 2 because it is like giving you half of the context for half of the nations in this game, you know?
I feel like the way I was thinking about it, tell me if you think I'm wrong. I feel like the way to go into 3 is either like go into 3 blind, don't have played 1 or 2, or play 1 and 2. Because the more I
Yeah.
learn about 3, it's like, especially since how much I've played or praised the original game, saying it's probably in my top 10 now. It's
Yeah.
like, okay, I feel like if I'm gonna get half context, I should just get full context, because I'm
Totally.
sure you can, I'm sure you can enjoy 3 and understand like 95% of what's going on without having played 1 and 2. But,
Hmm.
there's going to be all these little callbacks and blah, 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 possibly some character stuff that will
Yeah, I mean
enhance the experience.
it all builds on each other. Like the
Hmm.
end of 2 makes no sense if you haven't played 1,
Is that
right?
true?
Like
Okay.
no, it doesn't. It makes some sense, but like you're gonna be like, what are you talking about? What is this referencing? Like,
I'm assuming Alvis slash Klaus is, yeah, is involved.
yeah, I mean, you'll see. It definitely goes places. And like you know how the end of Xenoblade 1 ends, so like it goes places. Basically, the end of these games.
I mean, that it's like you're not even supposed to have context, and you're still like, okay, they're on a
Uh,
spaceship, and Monado is
I
a
mean, you
computer,
know,
maybe.
I
I don't.
love I love that concept, right? That this was our planet, this was the original Earth, and they just did a scientific experiment that went wrong and basically created another universe. Like,
Yeah,
and the two scientists who were part of that experiment became the
the
gods of
two
this
gods.
universe.
Yeah.
It's fucking crazy. And it's also I like gods when they're flawed, right? Like with human flaws. And I think that's part
Mhm.
of why people love the Greek pantheon of gods so much and all these kind of like mythological representations of gods. But
Yeah, for sure.
I do think that the Zanza and Mainith kind of dichotomy is a really interesting one in the first game. And yeah, they stuff happens at the end of 2. You'll see when you get there.
I'm
So
excited.
so.
Is Torna like? I'd like to play it at some point, but do you think
Mhm.
Torna is necessary to play before 3? Probably not, from what I've
No,
seen.
no, I
But
don't think so. Torna's more related to like the grounded, like main story stuff, the
yeah.
backstory of the 2 narrative, whereas like the actual like big brain 2 narrative stuff is not really. I mean, that's the kind of stuff you want to know going into 3, basically
Mhm.
the kind of end game stuff. So
I hate
yeah,
Rex's design, by the way. His stupid like
he's
diver outfit. It looks so
I
bad.
just don't like the voice they went with for him. I just don't think it works.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
he looks dumb, he sounds dumb. Like I just don't
And
like
he is dumb
Rex in
from
any
what I've
way.
seen.
He is dumb. He is dumb. But okay. So here's another interesting wrinkle to like why Melia and why Nia. Like it's interesting. Like there's definitely
Are
reasons.
they in the trailers to 3? Because I didn't see Melia.
So Melia is so the mask that she wears when she does the ceremony, or like her
Hmm.
duplicate does, or whatever
Yeah.
when she's leaving. That mask is what she's wearing in the trailer.
Whoa,
Uh,
really? I'll have
yeah,
to go
or
back
or
and
at least
watch it.
like a mask like that. And yeah, you can clearly see Nia as well. And there's reasons I
I mean,
think.
I did. There's like a faced Mechon ship at one point in 3. I saw. There's like
Yes,
it's like a
yes,
some kind of like junk. The junk is the name of one of the
yes,
ships in
junks.
Xenoblade.
Yeah.
Junks. I don't know why it's called that, but yeah, it looked like one of those ships with like a faced Mechon head on top of it. It was kind of cool.
Yeah, yeah. So those elements like have bled in because it feels like
Hmm.
there's just parts of the world that have combined. I guess like the Titans from 1. Sorry, the
Titans from 2. Yeah.
Bionus Titans from 2 and the Bionus and Mechonis from 1, and you clearly see the giant sword, which is the Mechonis sword, like just embedded
Hmm.
in the background. So yeah, I don't know how they come to it, but I'm very very fascinated to find out and interested. So yeah, not long to go, only about a week or so. So
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Also, man, the like UI and everything in that game so stylized too.
Yeah, it's very fluid. Like I think the general idea of moving away from the hotbar stuff from X and from the first game was a smart move. Like just
I think so. Put it on the
minimizing
face
it down.
buttons. It makes
Yeah,
sense.
yeah. It's really a smart way to deal with it. And there's almost like a rhythmical element to it in 2, and I wonder how much like that comes into it. So. But yeah, you have a lot of characters. You have like 6 characters you're going between. So I think combat's going to be very, very spicy.
But you have 7 because you have 6 main plus the like
Yep.
one hero character that you can swap out. Which, by the way, I mean, like Shulk has to be a hero character at one point. Like, I don't,
I
I
so
haven't
I
looked
don't
at leaks
know.
or anything,
the
but
the thing with this game is I have no idea like when it takes place. Like what is the time jump? Like
Mhm.
how because like Melly is a Hyentia, so she can live an unnaturally long life, right?
right.
So is it theoretically like 100 years later, but she's still there because
I
she
guess Nia,
can?
I have had this spoiled to me. She can also theoretically live quite long too.
Yes, yes, yeah. So, but the other thing I was gonna say was both Melia and Nia were like love interest that got rejected by the main protagonist.
Oh,
So
Nia too.
like,
That's unfortunate.
yeah,
Nia seems
the,
cool.
there's man, there's okay. I'm just gonna spoil this mode because it's really dumb. It's so fucking dumb.
Dude, I've had so much for two spoiled for me, and like that
Okay.
was willfully. So go for it.
Okay, all right. So there's this moment in two where Nia's like, "I love you, Rex," and then Rex is like, "I love you too. I love everyone, all of our friends." It's just like the most friend zone thing fucking possible. It is
Oh no.
hilarious. It's that kind of that's a fun thing that's in that game. So
What a shame.
my big brain theory is that Melia and Nia just fucking spurned lovers basically. Like neither of them got the protagonist when they wanted to, and so
Uh,
they've gone on this vengeance mission to like lead their countries in war against each other.
maybe
You
Melly is
know.
a blade.
Maybe, yeah. Who knows? Who has any clue? But I'm interested to see what happens. Very
Yeah.
very excited. It's probably my most anticipated game aside from Breath of the Wild 2. I would say it is up there for me. So
Yeah, I'm really looking
yeah,
forward to it. We've talked about this, but I think this is probably the only game this year that has potential to rival Elden Ring.
yeah. For me
It's not
anyway,
going to
it
win. I
definitely
mean,
is.
Elden Ring is going to win Game Awards. I think everybody knows that. But like,
Yeah, all the mainstream stuff. Yeah.
yeah,
But we here in the weeb corner, we know what's going on. We know the
yeah,
real shit.
our Japanese
So
RPGs.
yeah, we love them. They're great. So yeah, any other thoughts? Anything you want to mention before we close this thing out?
Uh, I don't know. We talked about this a little bit just personally, but the combat system to 3 looks super cool. How you can switch between
Yes.
all 6 characters, and there's also like a Final Fantasy job system, and it looks like the sort of job
Right.
mastery stuff where if like you reach a certain rank with the job, you can keep the skills or arts or whatever it
Yep.
is, and switch between them. And not only is it that, it's like so each of the 6 main characters have one class or one job. All of the hero characters that you get as well, if you keep them in the party, like you can get your own party members to have those jobs too. So there's like
Mm-hmm.
a bunch of different classes it looks like for everyone. I mean, again, it might be one of those things that could get overwhelming, but that I don't know, that seems up my alley as well. It seems pretty cool.
I like that idea of just having someone be a class for a while just to get those skills and then just like taking it away from them so you have that skill as a part of your base class. So like having Noah get a bunch of healing stuff so he can do healing stuff on his own. It's just great. Like I like
Yeah.
that kind of flexibility. And yeah, I hope it's good.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Because one of the things like in one, we already mentioned this a little bit. Like if you're going for like a topple break synergy, which can be super super strong in one, it can be frustrating to like if you're the one breaking, rely on the AI to like use their topple art after you break, or vice
Mm-hmm.
versa. You have to wait until the AI uses a break art so you can topple.
Yes.
So being able to switch between characters to do that, and also just like have an optimal build where maybe you can have a break and topple skill in your own kit, so you don't have to
Yeah.
switch around. Like that seems like a cool idea.
Exactly. But two also introduce like layers on top of that where you can
There's like launch or something as
yes,
well, right?
launch and smash. So you break, topple, launch, smash, basically. So you
Yeah, there's no days, right?
I'm not sure. I can't remember if there is days. There might be days, but I think like the main kind of one that you do is that where you basically
Days is kind of useless to be. I mean, it's not useless, but
yeah.
it's
You can daze lock enemies
Mhm.
if you have the right setup, but it's hard to do obviously because you're relying on AI for a lot of that
Yeah,
stuff in the
yeah.
first game. But yeah, launch being able to do that whole combo yourself of being like I'm gonna break on this character, switch to another one to topple, then launch, then smash, and just have it all very within your control. I think is gonna feel great. Like I think it's
hmm
gonna be a good addition to the
Also,
game.
gems are back.
Yes, yeah, that's true.
I was overwhelmed at gems when I first started playing, but once
It's a
you
weird
sort of
system.
realize how it works, they're not too complicated, and it
Yeah.
makes things pretty customizable. And it's deep, but it's not like over your head deep. It's like, okay, here's your plus ether, so magic does more, agility up,
Right.
blah blah blah. So seeing gems come back, that could be cool. That could be fun.
Yeah, yeah, totally. I think that adds like a nice level of customization to stuff. Yeah, I think that customization seems to be the name of the game here with three, and lots of options, lots of classes, loads of stuff like that. So I'm looking forward to digging into
It's a
it.
good thing. If they're smart, I don't know yeah, if they're smart, I don't know how the hell they'd handle this, and they probably would have done it by now. But I think a demo for
Yeah.
3 would have been really killer for a lot
Oh
of
yeah,
people that haven't played the
man.
series before.
I would have worn that thing out,
Yeah,
certainly. So,
it's Xenoblade,
um,
so the demo you probably could have gotten 20 hours of gameplay from or something.
oh, easily, yeah, easily, exactly. I guess last question for you: do you have any interest in playing X at any point in time?
I'd really like to at some point. I have a Wii U. I don't even know
Mm-hmm.
where the hell it is right now. It's not with
Just
me where
collecting
I
dust in a
am.
cupboard
Yeah.
somewhere, you know.
And like right before the Switch came out, a few months before the Switch came out, I had an issue where my gamepad was malfunctioning, and I remember
Oh
I
no.
called Nintendo, and it was going to cost like $150 to fix it, and I was like, I'm not
Yikes.
not going to do that. So, maybe
No.
I'll use alternative methods to play it at
Yes.
some point if
Yeah,
we
no,
don't
that's
get
definitely
a port.
possible.
I
Yeah.
think a port is, I mean, everyone wants one, but it makes
Mm-hmm.
sense that they haven't done it yet because 3, maybe next year or the
Yeah.
year after, I could see a Xenoblade X port coming.
Yeah, I think it's possible. Yeah, I think there's some big brain theories out there of like how does Xenoblade X fit into things of like the very
Mm.
idea of they'll wait until Xenoblade 9 and then be like, you already played 10. It came out like 40 years ago. And Xenoblade X was actually Xenoblade 10, you know?
This is, I guess, a good place to end, maybe. I have a feeling, I don't think this will be the end of the Xeno series, right? Because for those who don't know,
No.
Takahashi, there was Xeno Gears, which was going to be
Mm-hmm.
Perfect Works, and then that fell apart, but they actually sort of are making Perfect Works now, where they had 3 games on PS2, Xeno Saga. Now we
Yep.
have 3, kind of 4, kind of 5, I guess,
Yeah.
games in the Blade series. To me, this seems like it might be a good place to end Blade and then go to Xeno. I don't know, Xeno Gun.
Whatever's next. Yeah. Yeah, Xenogun, Jesus. Uh yeah, I could certainly see that happening. I think I don't know, I feel like the Xenoblade name is so important now to Nintendo that maybe
Yeah,
they'll just be incentivized to keep that as the kind of main moniker for the series. But I'd love to see what the studio does even outside of that franchise. They
yep.
had for years the kind of concept art of a medieval style game that
Ooh.
still hasn't appeared anywhere and has very cool art design and stuff surrounding it,
Yeah,
and is supposedly going to be an action RPG and stuff like that. So I don't know if they have made any progress on that or if that's going to be a thing that happens in the future. But
I
you know,
really love the like art style of sort of like, futurism, but it meets the
hmm
natural world within the Xenoblade series. But
oh,
seeing them take
100%,
on
yeah,
like a full-on Middle Ages-esque like fantasy world, I'd like to see
yeah.
them do that. I think they'd be great at
Yeah,
it.
I mean, they just make the best. They make the best worlds in the business. Like for
They do, it's
me,
incredible.
X is like another one of those on the list as well. So
Yeah,
yeah.
and that's the main reason I want to play X because again, one of my biggest flaws with the original game, which I didn't mention, was actually like exploring the world is incredible, but traversal can be very frustrating sometimes just
Yeah,
because
definitely.
you don't move like slowly, but there's no sprint feature, and you don't have a
Hmm.
giant mech like you can have in X. So
Yeah,
seeing more nuanced traversal mechanics, I think would have been cool. Maybe it's in 3, but it doesn't look like it from the
yeah.
trailers at
Well,
least.
so there is a boat that you're in at one point. It looks like that you
Okay.
control. So maybe we'll get some more kind of transportation that lets you go around the world quicker. I mean, yeah, that's the best part of X for sure.
I've just seen an X. Yeah, I've seen an X that not only is there the mech, like you can sprint, which I don't understand why they would possibly take that out, and
Yep.
you can also like super jump or whatever. It looks
Yeah,
it looks cool.
and you can take no full damage. It's I'm not gonna spoil X, but
I mean, you're in space, I guess, so it makes
there
sense, but you're still on a planet.
there is a in canon reason why you can take full damage or don't take full damage, and also you can jump super far and stuff like that and sprint. It's interesting stuff.
Okay.
X is an interesting game. And yeah, I don't think there's any better feeling in a video game than the moment I got the ability to fly with my skull. It was just, it's transcendent.
Yeah, everyone who's played the game seems like they say that. I'm looking forward
Yeah.
to it at some point. But I'm actually I would really like to play X at some point, but I think after I play 2 and 3, if I continue to be like this enamored with the series as I am, I
Hmm.
would really like to go back and play Xenogears because
Oh,
everything I've
same.
heard about
Yes.
the story is like the best in the series.
Yeah.
I was talking about wanting those more philosophical and like theology elements that you get at the end of
Mm-hmm.
one. I've heard that's like all of
Oh,
Xenogears once you
yeah.
hit a certain
Yeah.
point.
I
Um,
have also never played it and have been wanting to play it for a long time. So yeah, maybe we both play that at some point and we can talk about it.
I'd be down. I would recommend to both you and listeners, if you guys haven't heard of it, just this podcast in general, but they did like a 15-part retrospective on Xenogears. It's called the
Mm-hmm.
Resonant Arc podcast.
Yes, that guy did a
Incredibly well
bunch
done.
of like really good Final Fantasy reviews and stuff. Like
Yeah.
he's done great work over the years, I think, on
Yeah, no,
YouTube.
and,
So
and the way that they break down games, but also just like go into the history of their development and even their localization with Xenogears, super interesting. I highly recommend it.
yeah, no, I definitely will follow along with that when I get to Xenogears.
Yeah.
I don't know. Seems like Square Enix don't want to give up the rights to that to Nintendo or not do any remaster with it. Like, I really want Nintendo to take those old Xeno games and remaster them and do something with them, but
It'd be
you
great.
know,
Yeah.
those rights are with other people, Square
Well,
and
but
with
I
Bandai
think
Namco. So
do they own Saga? Because I know Square has Gears, but I think they were Monolith
yes,
Soft when they made Saga. So I think because like
yeah.
Cosmos is a Blade in two.
So I
So
believe Bandai Namco have that because they published the Xenosaga stuff.
okay,
So
I could
yeah,
still see Namco being way more open to a remaster than Square.
definitely, yeah, definitely. But it would be nice to get like a full Xeno collection on Switch. That would be
Yeah,
fantastic.
get a Xenogears in HD 2D. Just saying.
Yeah, no, definitely, I can see that happening. Seems to be what Square Enix want to do right now with all their old games. So definitely possible.
Yeah, if Dragon Quest 3 is still alive, we heard about that like two
Yeah,
years ago. Then it's like haven't heard anything since. And by the way, there's another like JRPG remaster
yeah.
that's
They've
just
already
out now.
released two this year, and there's still another one that still hasn't come out yet. So yeah, we'll see what they do with that. But yeah, I think that's going to do us. Thanks, Devon, for joining me here to nerd out about this series before
It's a great game.
everyone gets excited for the new one coming out. And
It's a really good
yeah,
game.
where can people go find you on the internet?
If you want to listen to us talk about more anime RPG nonsense,
Uh huh.
you can you can listen to our show Emblemcast, where we talk about Fire Emblem. We just finished a 4-part Awakening retrospective, and we are now doing a Jesus Christ, probably a 1,000,000-part Fates retrospective, where we're gonna.
Oh my god, that is going to take you years. Holy shit.
Yep. The way
Uh,
we're doing it, though, just to make it so that we don't go insane, is we're splitting the games into 3. So we're doing Birthright first, then we're gonna do another game, then Conquest, another game, then
oh, okay.
Revelation. So we're spreading it out a little bit, but
Okay.
we've begun our Fates saga, and
Okay.
oh boy, I designated myself. Darren decided to be the lore guy for Awakening, and for whatever reason, I thought it would be funny if I volunteered myself to be the lore guy for Fates.
Oh boy,
So,
okay. Uh-huh.
yeah, well, everyone else is having fun just hitting start, skipping all those cutscenes. I'm gonna have to read them and take
Yeah.
notes.
Yeah, man.
So,
So it's a really deep narrative, that game, you know.
I
Really
know.
holds up to like Xenoblade. Some
Yeah,
of the
really,
greats out
right?
there. Yeah.
Yeah,
So hey,
like
good luck with
Garen,
that.
Zanza, they're definitely on same levels as
Yeah, no,
villains.
just deep, complex villains. That's what
Yeah.
we're talking
And
about.
like Iago being sort of like Dixon, you know?
Uh-huh. Yeah. There are similarities, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, yeah, people can go check that out. Put some links in the description. But yeah, thanks for joining me again, and hopefully everyone will be excited for Xenoblade 3 coming soon. We'll be talking about it, I'm sure, on the show very soon. And Devon, when you get around to it, I'm sure we'll do a spoiler cast or something of the like. So yeah, look
Yeah,
forward
for
to
sure.
that. But until next time, thanks for listening, folks, and we'll see you soon. Bye bye.
Tell me why, the reason I am here, just only you I see from far away. I have come for you, don't know why. I searched all night and day, but when I'm here, darkness came, no lights to show the way. Talk despair, go. I will hold it in my arms. Oh, this light was you. I know it now. Beyond the sky, there's new places.